Welcome back to Reflect Politics. My name is Brendan Plank. Jasmine Crockett eviscerated Donald Trump's FBI director, Kash Patel, this morning during a congressional hearing, a hearing in which Republicans are trying to gaslight the American public into believing that Democrats are working together and have worked together with law enforcement officials to indict Donald Trump 4 times. Now, Crockett is going to clearly lay out how it's not Democrats, Joe Biden, and law enforcement officials who went after Donald Trump. It's Donald Trump who is working hand in hand with Kash Patel and his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to weaponize the federal government.
Here we go again, talking about Biden, and more Biden. Today is nothing more than a dog and pony show for Republicans to avoid facing the American people for their trash policies that are killing the economy and our democracy. Despite Republicans' claim of backing the blue and being the party of law and order, we're here today because Republicans are willing to throw our country's top law enforcement agents under the bus to appease Trump and execute his political vengeance. Now, I know remembering things is hard for some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, like remembering not to add reporters into a signal chat discussing military war plans. But let me remind my colleagues that it was Trump who decided to store national secrets and classified documents next to his oversized bathtub and toilet at Mar-a-Lago. It was Trump who took the documents out of the boxes and shared them with his guests. It was Trump who told his staff to move the boxes when the FBI was coming. And it was Trump who appointed Director Christopher Wray as head of the FBI, the same director that allowed the investigation to move forward. As much as Trump and Republicans hate to accept it, we are still a country with laws. And when you break them, there are consequences. Now, make no mistake, we should all be concerned about the FBI. But my concerns as ranking member of this subcommittee, as a member of Congress, and as an attorney, as well as a citizen, are based on things called facts. And when I say facts, I mean clear, indisputable facts, not those alternative facts my Republican colleagues continue pushing onto the American people. So let's talk about facts. Fact. Even prior to being confirmed by the Senate, Kash Patel was directing officials within the FBI to fire members within the Bureau simply because they worked on the lawful investigations into Trump. Fact, Patel failed to disclose his previous work and financial ties with the country of Qatar, a country that, had you had read the Mazars report, released last year by the House Oversight Committee, you would know paid close to $500,000 to Trump while he was president of the United States. Unsurprisingly, the FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force was recently disbanded, and the DOJ also cut back on its Foreign Agents Registration Act enforcement. Our enemies are jumping up and down now that we're doing their work for them. Another fact, Patel has never even been an FBI agent and is now leading the Bureau. Even one of today's Republican witnesses organizations, the Bureau, has advocated having an FBI agent lead the Bureau. But rather than confirm a director with credible, dedicated experience, the Republicans confirmed a political loyalist with no Quantico or FBI training. Talk about DEI. Didn't earn it higher. Another fact, Patel, who rails against telework, what he calls lazy agents, was working part-time in and out of Las Vegas, commuting back and forth between there and DC, while also living in the home of a GOP mega donor. Think about that for a second. Could you imagine what Republicans would have done had, say, James Comey had been living in New York part-time as the FBI director, and if his New York home was owned by, say, George Soros? Speaker Johnson would have forced a floor vote on articles of impeachment within days of this news coming out. But nevertheless, my Republican colleagues are willing to sacrifice safety for stupidity as long as it's loyal. Another fact, Patel and Trump-backed FBI leadership have redirected FBI agents who were working on investigations involving violent crimes against children and child exploitation and transferred them to work on anti-Tesla attacks and redacting Jeffrey Epstein files. Talk about FBI waste and abuse. You simply can't make this stuff up. To be clear, Director Wray testified before Congress last year, noting that, quote, if each one of the FBI's cyber agents and intelligence analysts focus exclusively on the China threat, China's hackers would still outnumber FBI cyber personnel by at least 50-1. Yet rather than hire more agents to protect against these cybersecurity threats, Director Patel is reassigning agents to redact Epstein files. Someone please tell me how this makes America safe. It's almost as ridiculous and wasteful as Patel's idea to contract the Bureau with UFC fighters. And while I have very real concerns about the current state of the FBI today, I want to be very clear. My concerns aren't with career agents, the men and women dedicating their lives to protect our country and communities. It's with the irresponsible leadership and reckless decisions coming from Patel, Trump, and Doge staff within the FBI. Our Bureau needs resources to do its job effectively. What it doesn't need is 20-something-year-old Doge bags reviewing materials without having undergone proper vetting and clearance. The American people have a right to be worried, but these worries shouldn't be based on Republican baseless conspiracy theories. Our country is already on a dangerous path, pushing closer to causing irreparable harm. Republican members need to wake up and put Trump loyalties aside to engage in real oversight of the current FBI before it's too late. Congress deserves it. The brave men and women at the Bureau deserve it, and the American people deserve it. I want to add one more point. As a civil rights attorney, I have had to sue law enforcement. There have been times that I can truly say that law enforcement has crossed the line. And I truly believe that there can be one or two in a bunch that can ruin everyone. The problem that I have right now, though, is that we have decided to focus in on something that my Republican colleagues have decided to term as being political. What is political is when somebody says that they are going to come back and seek retribution. What is political is firing people because they simply were following the evidence and doing their jobs as law enforcement has been trained to do. And ultimately, regardless of whether or not anyone believes that it was right to indict the president, not once, not twice, not three, but 4 times he was indicted, ultimately, each of you knows enough to know that at the end of the day, it is citizens that sit on a grand jury that are the ones that decide whether or not evidence exists to go forward with an indictment. And ultimately, when this president was convicted by a jury on the state level, it was a jury of his peers. And so I want to say thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your commitment. And thank you so much for the testimony that you will provide. With that, I will yield back.
Jasmine Crockett there, ending with a very important statement that she herself has gone after, prosecuted law enforcement officials in the past. So the idea that Democrats are refusing to go after law enforcement officials who have abused their power by indicting Donald Trump, one of the 4 times that they did it, is simply laughable. Those 4 indictments were highly scrutinized, and Republicans haven't delivered any evidence that those officials, those law enforcement officials, abused their power. As a matter of fact, all the evidence suggests that Donald Trump was the person who was abusing his power when he interfered in elections, stole classified documents, and paid hush money payments to a porn star. Now, a couple things that I learned here during Jasmine Crockett's speech was that Kash Patel has diverted funds away from investigating violence against children and child exploitation and directed those resources in the FBI to anti-Tesla violence. and redacting the Epstein files. When this all blows back on Kash Patel and Donald Trump and something happens that the FBI should have had a lock on, the American people, we've already seen in the past couple months that they are fed up with the way Donald Trump is behaving and conducting himself inside the Oval Office. When big things happen that are going to clearly be the responsibility of this FBI and of Kash Patel and of Donald Trump, that's when shit is really going to hit the fan. And it's only a matter of time before something like that happens, when they're using the FBI so irresponsibly. And somehow when the shit does hit the fan, they're going to try to blame Democrats like they always do. We hear it time and time again, how Donald Trump can't fix anything that he promised he would on day one because of the mess that Joe Biden left. And with Signalgate, which is something Jasmine Crockett touched on very quickly here at the beginning of her statement, they're trying to blame Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, for getting the text messages and the war plans that Pete Hegseth sent him. He's the one to blame. And so, of course, when something happens that the FBI should have prevented, they're going to somehow try to blame it on Democrats. But I want to know what your thoughts are, what your reflections are on Jasmine Crockett's statement today about Kash Patel and him holding hands with Donald Trump. Let me know in the comments down below, and be sure to like this video so that we can bring more people into the comments section and hear their perspective, their reflections. And be sure to subscribe to Reflect Politics if you haven't already, so you get my future videos delivered straight to you. Thanks for watching. My name is Brendan Plank. Hope to see you in the next video.